Guys, this story is wild. Imagine coming home early from a trip and catching your HOA inside your house, going through your stuff, claiming it was abandoned. Yeah, this one gets real messy, real fast. So smash that like button, drop a comment, and let's jump straight into this insane situation. There are moments in life when your heart tells you something is wrong before your mind can explain it. For Mike Thompson, that moment came at 6:42 p.m. on a quiet Wednesday evening. Mike had been away on a 3-day business trip. Nothing unusual, he traveled often. His home sat on a peaceful cul-de-sac, watched over by the local Homeowners Association, and ruled by a woman every resident feared. Karen Prescott, HOA president for 6 relentless years. But just as Mike sat down for dinner at a highway rest stop, his phone buzzed. It was a text from his next-door neighbor. "Hey man, not sure what's going on, but HOA board has been walking around your property for like 40 minutes. They keep checking windows." Mike froze. 40 minutes? He typed back, "Anyone inside?" 3 dots appeared. Then, "Lights just turned on inside your living room." The fork slipped from Mike's hand. He knew he had left every light off. His thermostat was on schedule mode. His security cameras? Offline. The HOA had recently required disconnects for system updates. Something in Mike's chest tightened. He grabbed his keys and drove. By the time he reached his neighborhood, darkness had settled. The street was still, silent, except for one undeniable detail. His home, the home that should have been empty, was glowing. Light spilled from the windows like somebody lived inside, or like somebody had invaded it. Mike parked 2 houses down. His pulse hammered violently as he stepped out, walking slowly, deliberately, keeping to the shadows. And then he heard it. Muffled voices. From inside his living room. He wasn't imagining it. He wasn't overreacting. Someone was in his home. Mike lifted his phone and hit record. He turned the handle of his own front door, and to his horror, it opened. Unlocked. He stepped inside. And there they were. HOA President Karen Prescott. Vice President Mark Haynes. Board member Linda Chavez. Standing in his living room, holding clipboards, rifling through his belongings. For a moment, nobody spoke. Nobody breathed. Karen turned slowly, like someone caught in the middle of a crime scene. "Oh, Mike," she chirped, forcing a smile. "You're back early." Mike stared at her, at the people trespassing inside his home, at the woman who had fined him for leaving his trash can out 2 hours late. "What are you doing in my house?" he asked, his voice cold and calm. Karen blinked, then straightened her sweater like nothing was wrong. "Well, we received multiple reports that your home looked abandoned. No lights, no movement. Mail piling up." She shrugged. "So as the HOA, we're authorized to conduct a wellness and compliance check." Mike's eyes dropped to the open drawers. The stack of papers Karen had been flipping through, the bedroom door slightly ajar. "Compliance check," he repeated. "Oh, absolutely," Karen said, nodding fast. "We were worried about mold, pests, structural decline, typical abandoned home issues. As HOA president, it's my responsibility to protect property values." Behind her, Mark added, "You weren't responding to emails." Mike stared. He had received 0 emails. Linda chimed in, "We thought you left without telling anyone." Mike took a step forward. "I was gone for 3 days, he said. 3. Karen lifted her chin like she'd been challenged. "Well, abandoned doesn't mean forever," she snapped. "Our bylaws state that if a home appears unoccupied, the HOA can step in." Mike locked eyes with her. "Show me the bylaw that says you can enter my house." Karen froze. The air shifted. The facade cracked. "Well," she stammered, "I don't have it printed." "And show me the law," Mike said. "The legal law that says HOA rules override my front door lock." Karen's lips thinned into a straight white line. "You're being combative," she hissed. "We were doing our jobs. And technically, if your home appears vacant, the HOA can impose a maintenance takeover fee. I was preparing your file." Mike felt the heat hit his chest. There it was. The motive. A maintenance takeover fee could reach thousands. And labeling a house abandoned gave Karen the authority to control it. He inhaled slowly, deeply, cool anger filling him. I'm going to ask you again, Mike said steady. Why are you in my home? Mark stepped in. We had reason to believe. No, Mike said sharply. You had a reason to profit. Karen's face flushed crimson. You can't talk to us like that, she snapped. We're the HOA. And this, Mike said, is my house. His voice sliced through the room like ice. Karen took a step back. Mike subtly tapped his phone, still recording, and slipped it into his pocket. Unless you want to explain this to the police, he said quietly, I suggest you all leave. Now. Karen scoffed. You're being dramatic, she said. We'll leave when our inspection is complete. Mike reached to the side and flipped on the kitchen light, revealing something Karen hadn't noticed. His neighbor standing in the doorway, phone in hand, live streaming. Karen's eyes widened. Mike looked right at her. Inspection's over. The room goes dead silent. Karen's eyes lock onto Mike's neighbor, whose phone is clearly recording every second of this unfolding disaster. Her mouth twitches. The color drains from her face. For the first time that night, she realizes she's not in control. Mike doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't threaten. He simply steps aside and motions toward the door. Leave, he says. All of you. Mark tries to keep his composure, clearing his throat like some corporate spokesman. This is unnecessary. We were conducting an official HOA inspection. Mike cuts him off with a slow shake of his head. You were trespassing. Linda fumbles with her clipboard. No one is trespassing. We were protecting property values. Mike's neighbor snorts. Yeah, by going through his kitchen drawers. Karen snaps. Stop filming. But the neighbor just keeps holding the camera steady. I'm on public live stream, he says calmly. Good luck stopping me. Karen realizes she's cornered. Her voice rises, shaky but loud. Fine, we're leaving. But I'm filing a report with the board about your hostility, Mike. She storms toward the front door, but freezes when she sees the blue and red lights reflecting across the driveway. Police cruisers. 2 of them, silent but fully lit. And Mike hasn't even moved. Karen's jaw drops. You called the police on us? She whispers. Mike folds his arms. I called the police on trespassers. The HOA doesn't get special privileges in my house. The door swings open and 2 officers step inside. Evening, the first officer says. We received a report of an unauthorized entry. Karen puffs up, instantly trying to reclaim authority. I'm HOA President Karen Prescott. These officers must be confused. This home was abandoned. We were performing our duties. The officer lifts a hand. Ma'am, stop. Karen blinks. We need all of your IDs, the officer says. Mark and Linda exchange terrified looks. Karen hesitates too long before finally digging her ID out. Officer number 2 turns to Mike. Sir, are these people allowed inside your home? Mike answers clearly. No, they entered without permission. I came home and found them inside. The officer nods, then turns to Karen. Ma'am, did you have permission to enter this residence? Karen scoffs. We're HOA. We don't need permission. The officer's face doesn't move. That's incorrect. HOA rules do not override state trespassing laws. The silence that follows hits the room like a dropped weight. Karen begins to talk fast, stumbling over her own sentences. We had reason to believe the home was vacant. The yard wasn't maintained. Mike cuts in. I have lawn service every Friday. Karen switches gears instantly. Well, the windows were dark. I was on a 3-day trip, Mike says. And I told the HOA last month. Karen sputters. You didn't CC the board. The officer steps closer. Ma'am, I'm advising you to stop talking. You're incriminating yourself. Mark and Linda are pale, shaking, staring at the floor. The officer continues. Entering a private residence without consent is a criminal offense. You cannot claim HOA inspection as justification. That is not how the law works. Karen's mask fully cracks. Well, we didn't break in. The door was unlocked. Mike speaks quietly. No, the lock was tampered with. Karen snaps her head around. That's a lie. Officer number 2 shines a flashlight across the deadbolt. There's a strip of fresh metal scratch marks. Clear evidence someone used a tool. The officer looks at the board members. Who opened this door? No one answers. So the officer asks again. Slowly, coldly. Who opened the door? Karen's voice trembles. I just turned the handle. It opened. We assumed that meant you could walk in? The officer says sharply. That's not how any of this works. A long, horrible silence fills the room, until finally, the officer sighs. All right, at this time, all 3 of you, step outside. Linda starts crying quietly. Mark mutters something about needing a lawyer. Karen refuses. I am not stepping anywhere. I am not a criminal. This is harassment. This is intimidation. I will have your badges. The officer calmly clips handcuffs off his belt. Ma'am, please don't make this harder. Karen backs away, bumping into Mike's coffee table. You can't do this, she screams. I am the HOA president. And this, the officer says, pointing to the floor, is not HOA property. It's a private residence. Emotions again. Hands behind your back. Karen shakes violently, tears now streaming down her face. Not from remorse, but rage. You're all making a huge mistake, she cries. I was saving the neighborhood. I was protecting property values. The officers don't reply. They cuff her. Right there in Mike's living room. Mark and Linda are escorted out separately. Cooperative but silent, looking like their entire world has collapsed. Neighbors begin gathering outside, filming, whispering, gasping. And Karen? She keeps shouting. You're done, Mike. You're done. I'll sue. The HOA will sue. You're destroying this community. But the police place her in the cruiser and shut the door. Her voice disappears behind the glass. Just like that, the night goes quiet again. The officers file their report. Trespassing, illegal entry, tampering, violation of homeowner rights. Mike provides all the footage, his recording plus his neighbor's live stream, which instantly went viral across the entire neighborhood. The officers shake Mike's hand before leaving. Good job keeping calm, one says. People like that, they count on intimidation. You handled this the right way. Mike thanks him, and then, for the first time in hours, he closes his front door. His house is silent. But peace? Not yet, because the fallout is only beginning. 2 days later, the entire HOA holds an emergency meeting. Over 50 residents show up, more than they've ever seen. A video projector displays the recorded footage of Karen and her board rummaging through Mike's home. Gasps echo across the room. People whisper. Others shake their heads in disgust. One elderly neighbor speaks up. She fined me for having a pink flower pot, but she thinks breaking into houses is okay? Another resident says, she tried to mark my home as vacant too, claimed I wasn't maintaining it. One by one, stories come out. Violations, threats, fees, manipulation. Karen had been abusing power for years. This time, she had gone too far. By majority vote, the board removes Karen permanently from the HOA presidency. Mark and Linda resign before they're voted out too. Karen tries running again a week later, but the community laughs her out of the room. No one wants her in charge again. Mike is asked if he wants to press civil charges. He thinks about it, carefully, deeply, and then he decides, I just want peace, but I won't let anyone ever do this again. He drafts a new HOA policy with the lawyers present. No HOA member may enter any residence, ever, without explicit written permission from the homeowner. Every resident votes yes. The neighborhood finally feels safe. As for Karen, the charges stick. Trespassing, tampering, unauthorized entry. She is banned from holding any HOA position in the state. Her reputation collapses. People avoid her like she carries a storm cloud. Sometimes Mike sees her driving by, bitter, fuming, but powerless, because on that night, the night she stepped into his home, Karen made one fatal mistake. She forgot that a title doesn't make you untouchable. Laws still exist, boundaries still matter, and homeowners aren't helpless. Mike returned early to a nightmare, but he walked away with something even better. His rights restored, his house protected, and the HOA tyrant finally removed.